Previously, we disassembled a G8 with 1.3 million kilometers, but fans were not satisfied and wanted to see more classic old car teardowns. Some believe that compared to high mileage, time is the real ultimate killer of a car. So what would a teardown of a car with an ultra-long service life look like? Thus, the two of us returned to the old car market and decided to each hold a budget of 10,000 yuan to find an excellent case from A-class cars with a minimum car age of over 15 years. Honestly, 15-year-old cars are not easy to find in the market. Even fewer meet our requirements. You can see Xiao Kun hesitated for a long time between three candidate models. Obviously, he wanted to find a sure-win answer, but my strategy is different. I already have a clear idea of which brand and model I want. It's a must-have. I'll keep this a secret for now. Let's first see which car Xiao Kun finally chose. Friends, doesn't this Lavida look refined? If I told you it was produced 15 years ago, you'd probably believe it. For us post-90s, its birth era coincides with the time we were about to graduate and enter the workforce. This is a dream car for us, and it was the first time a Chinese team took charge using German design and craftsmanship to produce such a quality family car. Back then, this segment of the market demand was precisely understood. This has made this generation a classic model. To date, the entire Lavida series has sold over 6.5 million units, a definite national car. I believe Lavida has played an indispensable role in shaping the recognition of German quality in the Volkswagen brand. When I look for an old car to disassemble, my first reaction is to find a Japanese car. But why are Japanese used cars always a bit more expensive than other cars of the same age in the old car market? This is the market's choice. What's in front of me is the first generation truly domestically produced Sylphy. At that time its ownership wasn't very large. When it was first launched, its starting price was over 140,000 yuan, which was honestly a bit expensive. Its next generation model truly achieved market success after lowering the price. Now let's take a look at the car. This one was produced in 2009, but it is actually the 2008 model, the first model year of this car. The current condition looks quite good, with the paintwork highly intact. There are just a few minor dents, which is inevitable. There are some paint drips here and there, but the entire car's flaws are very slight. It's equipped with the classic EA111 1.6 naturally aspirated flood prevention engine. Currently there's no leakage on the upper half, including the connection with the transmission, which is dry as new, perfect. This trunk is huge and the floor shows no signs of water ingress or rust, just some dust. It looks as good as new. Let's check the Lavida's interior. I think 99% of it remains in original factory condition with almost zero wear. Let's start the ignition and listen to the engine sound. Quiet as a cat. 16 years ago, when it first rolled off the production line and started for the first time, it must have sounded something like this. The Sylphy I chose also has a 1.6-liter displacement. I know the power of the Sylphy has become a well-known joke, but although its parameters aren't flashy, it is reliable and durable. This is why many people still recognize the Sylphy in the second-hand market, especially the old car market. The engine bay looks very dry with little oil grime, which shows that you don't have to worry about Nissan's household engines at all. A quick look at the front and rear doors shows a slight color difference, but that's not important. It's a small accident on such an old car. The Sylphy's trunk is originally very large. The key point is that there is no serious deformation or rust under the trunk floor, indicating that this car has not suffered any major rear-end collisions. The left rear tail light is a bit loose and could probably be removed, but I won't touch it. The front bumper is misaligned. Why is there some rust? That's not important. The front door panel probably has some deformation and some rust marks, including the rear. The rear paint is also peeling, but I still think this car is worth it. It's over 17 years old and only sells for 8,500 yuan. The key parts, the engine, transmission and chassis, will disassemble them later to see. I think the quality must be very good. Let's take a quick look at the interior. Overall, the car's usage environment was relatively harsh, and the owner's life traces are very obvious. Second, the dashboard has large areas of bubbling and peeling, which is a common problem for this generation of Sylphy. Now let's listen to its startup sound. There's slight belt slippage noise, but the startup is crisp and smooth. Although this Lavida is the 2008 model, its production year is 2009, and it has over 190,000 kilometers. We finally bought it for 10,000 yuan. My Sylphy is also a 2008 model produced in 2008 with 120,000 kilometers and a fixed price of 8,000 yuan. Next, it's time to go home and disassemble the car. Heh. What are you doing? I gave you 10,000 yuan and you bought a scrap car for 2,000 yuan and pocketed 8,000 yuan yourself. The 2,000 yuan is what I saved you. Looking at the appearance, my car is broken, but Japanese cars are good because they're durable, so owners don't have to care too much. Look, it's basically like a new car. 10,000 yuan is sky high. Enough small talk, let's go inside and see if we hit the jackpot. Don't say anything. Let me also mention the half-shaft oil leak possibility. The cylinder sealing isn't good either. The transmission oil pan is leaking a bit and the left half shaft is leaking as well. I see the half shaft on that side is leaking too. Look, the entire side cover in front of the crank is leaking from top to bottom. This minor issue is due to assembly skills being inadequate. To sum up, every joint has some oil stains more or less. This is the standard attitude people have toward Japanese old cars. The oil pan's drain bolt sealing isn't good, so they just used glue. Japanese cars get treated like this, which is why they have such a good reputation in the second-hand market, right? This car can still run. Your mouth is tougher than my shoes. Also, the subframe has some rust, but I don't think it matters. The subframe replacement is the bottom line thinking. As long as the car body doesn't rust, it's okay. Rust on the subframe doesn't affect strength. The chassis condition of my Sylphy is moderately good, including the brake lines and exhaust pipes. Why aren't they rusting? What is this? Bosh, it really is. This is body rust, friends. This side is just covered by the fuel tank, but this side also has rust. Especially in the welded parts, this is due to poor materials. Even a small weld point can damage its rust prevention ability. However, the torsion beam is somewhat rust-free, and we can see that back then family shopping cars still had splash-proof coatings. But how cost-saving was it? What happened? They deliberately left the two sides uncoated instead of spraying fully. Isn't that too demanding? It's not a B-class or C-class car. Splash-proof coating is enough. Look at my Lavida, it's fully sprayed. The owner of this Lavida also worked on construction sites, right? A little off-road. Look, after registration the cold dust peeled off. So your car isn't at a disadvantage. Both cars now have poor usage conditions, right? But look, none of my seams leak any fluid. Engine, torque converter, transmission, various joints, no seepage. The oil pan and transmission case are dry. Your half shaft isn't leaking either. Facts speak louder than words. Isn't this a slap in the face? Look, my Volkswagen has full undercoating. I tell you, even the area inside the skid plate is sprayed fully, all the way to the door sill beam. Yeah, look, this was also deformed by a collision. Did it rust? It didn't rust after the collision. Rust prevention is a systemic engineering process. The surface is covered with paint and splash coating, but the inner wall also needs fire protection. So it must have galvanized materials, electroplating, and Volkswagen's proud cavity wax, forming multiple barriers to completely isolate external air and moisture. This prevents surface rust and internal corrosion. In the same spot on the Sylphy on the rear floor of the white body, you can see no rust marks because its splash coating was fully sprayed. This effect is very obvious. Besides durability comparison, the two cars have very simple structures: front MacPherson strut and rear torsion beam. Nothing much to note. Next, let's enter the full vehicle teardown. We have removed the engine and transmission from the 2008 old Sylphy. The most obvious problem is the poor sealing of the transmission housing, especially this part. We can see that the entire wind-facing surface of the engine has oil and dirt layers alternating, eventually forming a serious hard crust. On this hardened base, cracks have occurred. Besides the front, the rear leaks too. It's so severe it's not just leaking but splattering oil, leaving structures similar to those at noon on the transmission housing. My goodness, this car can still run? I'm amazed. Besides the two most severe spots, the transmission rear cover also leaks. I suspect it may have been disassembled and reassembled before, causing poor sealing. Preliminary observation shows the car's power generation state isn't very good, especially the leaks are severe. Yet the owner was never stranded on the road. Everyone says Japanese cars are durable with a well-known reputation. I'm even more curious about what's inside. So today the Sylphy is definitely the star. The engine and transmission on my car are exactly the same as when on the vehicle. The power generation components are completely free of leaks after 16 years and 190,000 kilometers. Can you imagine? This is quality and durability, friends. Only after disassembly did we see. The upper part of the subframe is also covered with a thick layer of dirt, showing the owner really used it as an off-road vehicle. The only notable point is that the starter motor seems to have been replaced. The date on it is 2022, which is understandable for a 16-year-old car. The air conditioning compressor also looks newly replaced, especially the label looks new. However, its production year is 2009, so it's the original air conditioning pump. After 16 years and 190,000 kilometers, all the joints look like they were assembled just yesterday. Its overall performance now has exceeded my expectations. Next, we will do further disassembly. Volkswagen's EA111 1.6 naturally aspirated engine is probably not unfamiliar to everyone. Maximum power is 105 horsepower, maximum torque 155 Nm. The parameters aren't explosive, but at that time this engine brought DVVT intake and exhaust variable timing, a long-life camshaft, and a silent timing chain to a 100,000 yuan level family car. It can output 85% of maximum torque at 1500 RPM, so the old Lavida is both fuel-efficient and durable. In the city, it's hard to exceed 7 liters per 100 km. The initial throttle response is also quite light and quick. It can be said that this 1.6-liter engine was indispensable for Lavida to carve out a market in A-class cars. After 16 years and 190,000 kilometers, why does Lavida's engine not leak at all? The answer lies here. The state of almost every part of the engine is close to perfect. The cylinder wall looks like it just came off the production line yesterday with no scratches and shining like new, very beautiful, including the valve chamber, camshaft, crankshaft, and all the bearings. Almost zero wear, which is very shocking. How was the 190,000 kilometers driven? Was the throttle never pressed? The evidence also shows that theoretically at 200,000 kilometers the engine should be at its service life limit. But if your timing chain has no damage, hasn't stretched, and the tensioner works normally, I think there's no need to replace it and it can still fight on. But it can be seen that during long-term use, there was a period when the owner neglected maintenance and probably added low-quality oil. We can see a thin layer of oil sludge inside the engine side cover. It's obvious that after 190,000 kilometers the owner never cleaned the carbon deposits inside the engine. The carbon deposits are fairly uniform. Also, the piston oil rings show slight sticking. Besides that, the pistons are perfect. But these are very acceptable normal wear conditions. There's one thing I guess everyone is curious about. Why is the intake pipe so clean, almost like factory condition? The reason is this engine uses throttle body injection and the injected gasoline has a strong cleaning effect. So you see, there's almost no carbon buildup. Friends, remember its condition. Every part is a benchmark and a flag. This is the top condition after 190,000 kilometers, so you can also know where the bad carbon deposits and shortcomings are in the future. For example, the Sylphy would definitely be a negative example. If anyone can match the EA111 engine, I think Nissan's HR16 is one. Also a 1.6-liter naturally aspirated engine, HR16 was jointly developed by Nissan and Renault, and aggressively uses an all-aluminum alloy with cast iron cylinder sleeves to reduce overall weight. Don't underestimate the engine. This engine feels messy when removed because Nissan uses a reverse layout of intake and exhaust. The benefit is smoother intake airflow, stronger low-end torque, and better catalytic converter performance. The initial power output of this engine is even a bit aggressive. Of course, HR16's main feature is fuel efficiency and durability. Without it, the Sylphy wouldn't be the people's car. Okay, we have completely disassembled the old Sylphy's engine. I have to admit, its overall condition is slightly worse than the old Lavida with several obvious wear marks. Let me show you. First, the intake pipe has blackened burn marks on all 4 ports from carbon deposits, but that's because the injector position is near the end and cannot be cleaned. Besides that, the crankshaft has a slightly noticeable wear scratch, and the camshaft also has a few scratches. Besides that, this car also used low-quality oil, causing a thicker and darker oil sludge inside the engine side cover. Continuing, there's one unavoidable issue. Carbon deposits are somewhat more serious than the Lavida. Is it somewhat serious? It's quite serious. You can't see the metal color at all. The entire piston top is thickly covered by carbon deposits and it's not just a thin layer. The most serious part is the cylinder wall, the engine's core. But after polishing you can see the cylinder wall color is uneven with dark and light patches. Looking at the piston skirts, I don't understand. Yes, that's right. This is because their mating clearances are incorrect, lubrication is insufficient, and excessive carbon deposits cause excessive wear. So I suspect this engine also slightly burns oil due to excessive wear and the clogged oil rings. Simply put, if you have a problem, admit it openly. Even the timing chain tensioner has obvious vertical scratches and can't be used anymore. It can only be said that this engine's various conditions have uniformly degraded. This car can still run. The conclusion is obvious. See you at the end of the show. Both cars' transmission main structures are consistent. All are AT forms with torque converters and planetary gear sets. The biggest difference is Lavida has 6 gears while Sylphy has only 4. After dismantling both transmissions, no obvious faults or excessive wear were found. The Sylphy transmission's clutch hub slot has slightly more obvious nickel marks, and some friction plates show extremely slight burning. Other than that, there are no notable issues on both transmissions. In other words, they should both be fine serving another 100,000 kilometers. The interiors are completely stripped. Let's look at the overall structure. The first impression is neat with sufficient materials. From the firewall's upper edge to the front of the rear seats there is a full layer of sound and vibration insulation. Lifting it you find some foam filling on the floor plus a layer of vibration-damping sheets. The material use is generous and the entire floor is clean and rust-free. The materials used on this car are indeed high quality. Even on the roof there is a layer of sound and vibration insulation. This insulation cot extends up to above the door sill beam. This is quite demanding because there are many wiring holes nearby, so many precise cuts and clearances are needed. Every cut is neat and tidy, something 99% of owners never see. But it has to be done this way. The trunk once opened looks like new. The floor and wheel arches have vibration pads and the inside of the rear fender has soundproof cotton. You should know that for a car sold over 10 years ago for over 100,000 yuan, this material use is quite fierce. In fact, this car even has a rear impact beam. I don't understand why they gave mounts for the engine and transmission but no crossbeam. Anyway, this also shows some differences in design philosophy between German and Japanese cars. The old Sylphy's trunk side indeed doesn't have as much soundproof cotton as the Lavida, only vibration pads. This approach is practical. Also, one thing they definitely didn't realize is the trunk tailgate spring. Lavida uses springs, but Sylphy uses 2 iron rods with torsion to open and close. This was a hot internet topic among old netizens 15 years ago, discussing German quality being high with good materials and Japanese use being sloppy. Another point is that the trunk opening's crossbeam must have a ring beam, otherwise, only stiffeners can be added. This is a patch with the advantage of being cheap but with obvious disadvantages. The rear seats can't fold down so no space expansion is possible. You can see from the tail that the two cars differ in material use and design focus. But regardless, this car has safely driven for 17 years. Wow, this scene is really fun, friends. I'll lift it and explain what this is. Honestly, it can't compare to Lavida, which has full coverage of soundproofing cotton. Sylphy only uses 4 large white hard foam pieces, the kind of foam you get free inside a refrigerator box. Of course, it's not completely without soundproofing cotton. It's also laid on the firewall, just less in area. After 17 years, you can see its strength has barely changed. You can step on it with your feet, it won't break or deform. In the century-long history of cars, few brands have used foam as soundproofing material on cars. Don't think it has no soundproofing cotton above. It's attached to the roof lining. Lastly, let's check the white body condition, which basically shows no rust spots, indicating Nissan did well on this baseline area, better than the chassis. Friends, I can claim a victory here. All cars have airbags, but this old Sylphy has a device below the main frame that loosens the seatbelt in case of accident. We know that during a crash, if the seatbelt tightens too much and the airbag deploys, the tightening can injure occupants. But with this device, the seatbelt can loosen slightly to avoid such injuries. After looking at the hard fittings, let's check the soft fittings. Don't think the old Sylphy's interior looks very old and dirty at first glance. It's actually fine. It uses a deliberately dark top, light bottom color scheme. The parts I hold above the A and B pillars are all light colored and have a different texture from the bottom parts, but all are plastic material. Most interior parts have no deformation or brittleness. A very serious problem with the Sylphy in China is the surface skin sticky and bubbling, which is a craftsmanship issue. The material used was similar to artificial leather with an accelerator added. The incorrect ratio caused the accelerator to migrate under UV and heat, changing the chemical properties. It became unstable, sticky and bubbled, looking very unpleasant. Comparing the dashboards of both cars, both use hard plastic in design, but Lavida's is obviously sturdier. Shake them a bit, this one sounds like a small fan fluttering and deforming. This is a design difference because mine is a composite structure with a patterned surface and an integrated air conditioning duct inside. It's very sturdy and has many reinforcements. Also notice the details. Foam is added to all joint places of air ducts to prevent noise. It's neat and rigorous. Lavida's interior has only one color, a lighter one, making it look newer and prettier, but basically both use PP plastic with no cracking, deformation or aging. The metal clips on the back are still in good condition. A very inconspicuous central armrest in Lavida, but because of strength requirements it has to support your arm for over 10 or 20 years. Look at the big quality parts behind it, real stuff. After a thorough teardown in comparison of Lavida and Sylphy, it's clear that this 2008 ultra-old first-generation Lavida, backed by Volkswagen's foundational design strength and manufacturing craftsmanship, has its entire vehicle and parts in excellent condition. If Santana witnessed the birth of China's civilian car industry from 0 to 1, then Lavada's launch and iteration marked China's auto industry progress from 1 to 100. Lavada also reflects countless Chinese families' journey toward prosperity and happiness. Until 2025, Lavada remains an unavoidable presence among 100,000 yuan-level fuel cars. Although cars have fully entered the intelligent era, a car isn't a digital product. Some things don't follow Moore's law, such as cavity wax and laser welding. These high-cost processes provide visible quality assurance and remain outstanding technologies in the A-class family car segment. Times change, but Volkswagen's commitment to manufacturing craftsmanship continues in the Lavada Pro. The newly launched Lavada Pro has grown to 4,720 mm long, basically leaping up a level compared to the first-generation Lavada. With the latest family design language, it looks more like a small Passat from afar. The 1.5T EVO second-generation engine paired with the DQ200 transmission maximizes fuel efficiency and durability. Moreover, the Lavada Pro's chassis is upgraded to 4 independent suspension wheels, greatly enhancing comfort. It even supports AI cockpit and L2-level driver assistance, which are rare specs in the joint venture A-plus class fuel car segment. Considering the Lavada Pro's fixed price is 88,800 yuan, and it currently enjoys 2 years of zero interest, a 4,000 yuan trade-in subsidy, lifetime warranty, and digital key, I believe Lavada Pro will once again become the national fuel car choice of the next era.